going to be dialoguing for at least an hour and a half or so. My name is Jerome, and I am not, I'm not a city employee, I'm not a private employee, I don't represent anyone. The past month or so, as I've been, for the past 5 years, I've been very active in my neighborhood association as far as trying to get things done for my neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood called East, which is located between North Miami Avenue, or North and 2nd Avenue, and 48th Street. So from that on, I've been able to meet other people in the surrounding areas. And for the past 5 years, we've been trying to get things done as far as quality of life issues, trying to get more police officers, trying to get some enforcement stuff done. So basically, about a month ago, I started doing some research in regards to, as you know, as everyone here knows, there's an election on August 26th. And part of that election on August 26th is there's 3 items that affect every single resident in the city of Miami. Because those 3 items are items in which they're called referendums or ballot items. And to me, in doing my research, I realized those 3 items are something that basically we as a community should have a discussion about. And to be honest with you, I've never attended a discussion held by a community member. It's always been held by a city official or a county official. But to me, I think it's important for us as community members to have our own discussion. We shouldn't wait for someone to call a meeting when basically we are the residents. If we have questions of dialogue, we need to call ourselves. Plus, one thing I've learned with dialogue is dialogue brings about results. I've been married for 7 years. And the only reason I'm married that long is because of dialogue. Without dialogue, there isn't marriage. So to me, as I go about trying to make my neighborhood better, I realize that my neighborhood cannot get better unless the surrounding neighborhoods around me improve also. Now, with that being said, we can't improve if we don't have dialogue. If I don't know who you are, how are we supposed to address issues? For example, the neighborhood next to me had an issue when it comes to code enforcement. But guess what? I only knew about it because we had that issue. So instead of me arguing code enforcement on my own, we partner up to address it. So basically, this is the purpose of this meeting. And I'm hoping my goal is every single month, every other month, I can host a meeting somewhere, rather be here over town, in the city, or the east side, for us to come together and speak. Because the one thing I realize is we have more in common than what we don't have in common. But the fact of the matter is we don't realize that unless we talk to each other. So that's what I'm having this meeting for. This is not about anti-this and anti-that. It's strictly about the issue. So I'm not here to ask you to support or don't support the issue. I'm actually to listen, to have a dialogue, because some of the answers I know, some of the answers I don't know. And hopefully through your questions, someone here may know an answer. And you being someone who's active in your neighborhood, you may be able to go and take it back to your neighborhood, like, hey guys, this is what I learned, this is what's going on. That's it. Thank you very much for being here. I'm glad that everybody showed up. Hopefully more people show up, but because of the weather, we may have to enjoy each other's surroundings for the next 2 hours. Again, I'm Jerome. What's your name, sir?
J.A. Ramos.
Thank you for coming, guys.
Maria Ramos.
Jackie Collier with the Oakland Road Neighborhood Association.
First of all, I apologize. Al Crespo is from Al Crespo's brand. He has a website in which I people to go to hear about this issue. I asked him to come in because what happens is, to me, it's very important that everything we do is public. So as we have dialogue, if someone can go on his website and learn more about the questions he asked, to me it's very effective. Because at the end of the day, I don't care if you're in Little Haiti, Little Havana, we're all part of the city of Miami. So what happens here happens every place else. So, I'm sorry, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Al Crespo. I published the Crespogram report, and this video will be up on my website. Like I try to put up other community videos so that people can go and look at it since they didn't have an opportunity to come to the meeting.
Sir?
Stanley Nelson.
Stanley Cato.
Howard Lee.
And my wife, Owen.
Henry Golden, Hatching Paul Homeowners Association.
Yeah?
Commissioner Harris.
Yeah? Sir?
Roy Hardemon, City, Bottom Board, and Liberty City Trust.
Ma'am, you just came in?
Ed Goldberg.
You are really
Say it again, please. I didn't hear you. Thank you. Ma'am?
Christine King, President CEO of Martin Luther King Economic Development Corporation.
James?
James Bowling, Chief of Staff, Commissioner.
Everyone should have 2 packages. If you don't have 2 packages, please raise your hand. I want to make sure everybody has 2 packages with them. You should have them.
May I officially make a recommendation for future on these handouts? When you reach my age, when you get to page 4, and so forth, the lettering,
Oh, yes, sir.
I need to pay for.
I'll try better next time.
I appreciate that.
I will. Does anyone doesn't have 2 packages with them? Again, my thing is, I'm gonna ask that we hold off on. If you have questions, hold off until I'm finished the presentation. Because the thing is, when we start asking questions, you can ask questions for another hour or so, and then what happens is we don't get through the whole entire presentation. Again, if you need a pen, I also have pens. So that way, and also in the back of the first packet, there's a page that says notes. If you need to write a question, you can write the question on the back of the page. That way, we can go back to it. Again, just for the record, I don't have all the answers. And basically, I'm not gonna assume I have all the answers. But I do know that there's enough people in here that if we ask questions, some of them will be able to direct us to where we find the answer, and so forth. Okay. I guess yes. Sheila Jerome.
Can you move it down?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
My name's Bob Powers. I'm the president of the Palm Grove Neighborhood Association, and I was the former chair of the Miami Bayside Foundation.
The first thing we're going to talk about is the agenda. We already just walked up the outline of the outline. First thing we're going to discuss the first violation as it relates to the listing of city-owned submerged lands. The second issue we're going to discuss is the target that requires approval. And the third issue we're going to discuss is the Bayside market-based skyrise Miami. Now, once I give a brief overview, the last 45 minutes or so, we're going to ask questions and dialogue with each other. Again, I ask that everyone is be very respectful of each other because everyone here took time out from their schedule to be here. So, and I ask that we basically conduct ourselves as adults that we are. Thank you very much. We go to the first issue, we go to the second page. The ballot item as it relates to the leasing of city-owned submerged lands. I'm going to go ahead and read it. And then so that way I'll make sure that it says leasing of city-owned submerged lands entities having possessory or ownership interest in bordering upland. Shall the city of Miami charter be changed to allow the city to enter into leases or management agreements for city-owned submerged lands, land under water, including bay bottoms with entities having possessory or ownership interest in budding upland, land bordering water to build marinas, docks, facilities, using methods by ordinance on the condition that such leases or management agreements result in a return to the city of at least fair market value. In doing my research, what I realized is, I guess prior to this amendment, prior to the ballot initiative, and again, someone may correct me at the end if I'm incorrect, is if the city of Miami was in a position where they wanted to enter into agreement for the leasing of such land, then it would require a ballot referendum similar to what is happening now as it relates to Skyway. Now, this issue here is in relates to submerged lands. We have properties in which, like I said, marina properties are properties abutting rivers or ocean. Similar, Miami river property or Brooklyn. So any other property which city of Miami owns, which was water. So what happens now is they're being asked the right to enter into an agreement with a private ownership or with a corporation or anybody else without having to go to the residents for approval. So again, that's a decision in which when we go and look at it, we have to to decide, are we as residents okay with having such agreements in place without us having any? Because probably right now, if to answer it in an agreement like that, they have to go to the vote for approval, similar to what's going on now as it relates to the Bayside market, because it's dealing with city on property. Okay? So that's the first part of the issue. And if you go to the next page, last year there was a special election as it relates to Coconut Grove Marina, in which the city of Miami had placed a ballot item where they wanted to renovate the grove. And part of renovating the grove was the fact that they had placed the item on the ballot for the residents to decide. And perhaps everyone had a chance to vote on this. Now, again, I'm a resident, and I'm actually, this is my concerns are as relates to this issue, and again, I don't have an answer to this. If this ballot item had passed, would the residents have the right to actually vote on this issue? So what I'm asking is, if this issue came up next year, and we already passed the ballot items which we allowed the city of Miami to agree to enter agreement without us having a say. So this whole issue of the road having the ballot issue, we as residents probably would not have the right to vote because the commission would have made their own decisions as far as going with or without it. Am I clear? Am I correct?
Yes.
So again, as a resident, I'm a resident. I don't want anybody. I'm always concerned about the fact that the residents' rights or our rights to have input, our rights to vote issues, which is sitting on properties, are not being what I call being cultivated and so forth. So if anyone you want to read the article or want to email to, I can do that. Just let me know in the afternoon. So that is the first item in which, again, on August 26th, we as residents, we have to go to the vote. Now, the second item is in regards to the charter amendments as it relates to the legal and residential everyone on the same page. Charter amendment requiring referendum approval when construction is not commenced with certain time. The question asks, shall Miami Charter Section 29B be amended to require additional board referendum approval for a developer of city-owned property where the developer has not obtained necessary building permits within 4 years of the effective date of the lease with force. This word is mature. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Force majeure. Force majeure.
Or litigation exceptions. So again, we as a residents, we vote on all issues that relates to city-owned land being conveyed, being leased out to any third-party corporation. Okay? As you guys know, when the land is leased out for development, to develop or to whatever you want to do with it, there is a time frame in regards to it.
Do you want me to get that in there?
I have one in that. I have one in that. So, an example is, currently right now, there is an issue that's been going on for 13 years in regards to Washington Island. More than 13 years ago, there was a ballot initiative in which the voters agreed to lease out the land for Washington Island and so forth, right? And the actual developers were supposed to have developed it and so forth. But again, it's been 13 years. We went through recession and everything else. Now, if this ballot item passed the way it worded, it means that Washington Island would only have 4 years. Say for example, today the ballot passed. So if the city of Miami enters this agreement to lease me out the land, I have 4 years to develop it. And if I don't put the permits, then what happens is it has to go back to the city of Miami or it has to go back for another vote. So that's, again, it goes back to the issue of land ownership. Now, this question here references the timing, meaning that how long does someone have the right to enter into agreement and don't do their part as it relates to develop the actual land per se. One of the things in which, one of the questions I had about this issue was the fact is,
You guys never paid rent.
sorry. Okay.
He's never paid any rent?
No, they're paying $1 million a year now.
Guys, last question. Question. One of my concerns was the agreement was agreed upon 13 years ago, when land value was X amount. I'm quite sure anybody who's been into real estate can say that land value has increased tremendously from what it was, from what it was 13 years ago. So we as residents, are we losing our revenue because of the fact that we're stuck to old agreement? Possibly so. Are we as residents not being able to find maximum use of this property because it's being used for use in which it was approved for 13 years ago? Possibly so. So again, these are all questions which I ask myself and those around me that I want everyone else to ask themselves also. Because again, it's our properties and we're all residents here. It's our city land, it's our revenues, it's our money that is being used for such things. Now, the last issue, and the ballot issue that's on the agenda is in the Bayside market, Skyrise land. Can you go ahead and read that? It says, should the city extend the existing lease from 3699 to Bayside Market LLC on the 16.85 acres of waterfront land, Bayside Market is additional the city will receive upfront payment of $10 million. Minimum guarantee will bring approximately $3,500,000. Minimum improvements to Bayside Marketplace, including additional parking, increased contributions to Bayside Marketplace Foundation, and development of 400 million property-funded 1,000-foot operations and entertainment tower called Skyrise One. Now, 2 weeks ago, I hosted a similar meeting, and the meeting was only in regards to Skyrise Land and the Bayside agreement. What I realized was there's a lot of issues going on in the city of Miami, which we want to have discussion, which is why I went ahead and added the other two issues. Because again, on August 26th, we're voting on 3 issues. So what I have here is a lot of the information which I was able to obtain from the last meeting. If you go to the next page, this is a printout. On my own, I contacted the actual developer, which is the Berkowitz development, which is actually developing the properties. Now, at the last meeting, they were able to attend and make a presentation in regards to their plan and so forth. In this meeting, they were unable to attend. But I do have a printout of exactly what their actual agreement or what their proposal to the city of Miami is. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go through it very briefly, and then I'm going to allow us to go ahead and start a dialogue without any further portion. Again, this is the exact email that I received. Now, just let me give you a brief overview about Skyrise Miami and Bayfront Park Trust and the whole agreement. From my understanding is there's 2 agreements. I believe there's 2 agreements. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong. There's an agreement where the city of Miami entering into an agreement with the Bayside Marketplace, which is the entity that manages the Bayside Marketplace, and they've been doing it for the past 30, 20 years or so. And that agreement is being renewed from 36 to 99 years. And there's also an agreement between the Bayside Marketplace and the city of Miami Skyrise, in which they're entering into an agreement with Bayside, with Miami Skyrise is leasing land from Bayside Marketplace, but which is in relationship to the city of Miami. As you guys know, the land is still the city of Miami. Even though the Bayside Marketplace actually leases out the whole entire property, it's still city of Miami on land. The city of Miami has to approve any agreement. So now what you have is a condition where there's 3 parties involved in this whole agreement. We have the Bayside Marketplace, you have Skyrise Miami, and also you have City of Miami. Now, there's two other organizations which discuss about this. There is the Miami Bayside Foundation, which is the organization which was created, I guess, some time ago to actually where some of the revenues of some of the funding that is created from Bayside actually goes to the Bayside Marketplace to help fund small business associations and so forth, to help fund small business development enterprise rooms and everything else. Now, and then also there's a part of it also where X amount of funding is also going to the community, to the city community revitalization trust. So in essence, you have five entities involved in this whole transaction. Okay, you have two entities that basically benefit from a revenue source as far as getting funding for community development, economic development, small business, and so forth. And also you have the three entities which actually are basically operating the land. Marketplace, City of Miami, and Skyrise Land. Now, if you go to the second page, in my conversation with those, with the developers, Mr. Hancock Dono is the vice president of the development. And one of the things in which at the last meeting he discussed with us was the fact that one of the things in which they're doing as it relates to this project is they're having set aside for small business, for minority-owned and women-owned businesses for a contract. So basically, they're setting aside $25 million contracts to be given to small businesses, whether it be woman-owned or minority-owned, that's really to construction of the entire building. Also, without further, they're also setting aside, they're also giving priority housing to residents who reside in D5. Now, based on that truth, they give priority housing to those who reside in D5 and also who reside in D1 because of the fact that those are areas which is the most garbage. So when it comes to hiring, when they build this building, the priority housing will go to those entities. So, the last thing I had in regards to the trust, the last thing I had in regards to the Skyrise, there were questions asked, why would I have any information here about the trust and not information here about the stock, about my Bayside Foundation? So what I did was, again, to be fair to everyone, I went back and I added information from that I found online. Everything in this package that you can find online about the Bayside Foundation or about the actual Liberty Trust. Again, I didn't take anything, I didn't create anything, everything is public information. Because to me, again, I speak to myself because everyone here, because I actually come here. So I have to tell you that it's important point for me as a resident that we start to inform ourselves about what's going on from the short term and long term. Now, I was not privy to why this is being done the way it is. I don't know why that the agreement happened the way it happened. I can't even comment on that. But I do know that whenever it involves city-owned property, whenever it involves revenues or money that we as residents are being accounted for, we have the right to ask questions. Now, who we ask it to? I don't know. But again, we're here for that purpose. And I'm hoping that this information that I've given you can allow you to make a sound decision on August 26th. And then also you can go back to your neighborhood, to your family, and to your community, and show them this information. And if there's anything here which you think I should have included or didn't include, please tell me, because I want to make sure I'm fair to everyone. I want to make sure I'm seen as being as what you call as neutral as possible, because it's not about one particular organization versus another organization. This is about the residents and basically what's good for us in the long run. So at that point, if anybody has any questions or comments, wait, before I start, we have a representative here from who were past board members from the Bayside Foundation. We also have a representative here from the Liberty Community Trust and also a representative from the City of Miami. I'm going to ask before we ask questions, they want to comment, they want to correct anything I said, please do so at that time so that I can make sure we get the right information to everyone here. Bob, you want to start? Captain, sure. Bayside Foundation.
My name's Bob Powers. I was appointed to that chair in 2010 to the Miami Bayside Foundation. And the reason I was appointed to that foundation was nobody knew where the money was. And they couldn't get any of their present people sitting on that board to tell them where the money was. So, not being a person who takes no for an answer very well, as Mr. 24 years that they ran that foundation, how many loans do you think they put out? Take a guess.
One.
He's the only one who got it right. They put out one loan to a minority business, and it was somebody who sat on their board. They paid their executive director over $100,000 a year to administer nothing. To administer nothing. You had $1 million supposed to put children of color through college. You had $1 million sitting at Miami-Dade College. That was over here at the Carrie Meeks Center. Never used.
What happened to the money?
Still sitting there. Now it's being used because I went in and got them to use the money. It was taken away from the Carrie Meeks Center and moved to downtown, put into an entirely different thing. We have 42 students that have now graduated college on that site. Okay? So, well, let me finish. 3 years I sat on that board. I had to go to every bank in downtown Miami to find the money for that thing, $3.5 million. And there's still a couple $100,000 that's not accounted for. But I just want to let you know that your own leaders never used the money that was given to them to fund minority businesses in the city of Miami. We had to literally rewrite the bylaws and rewrite everything on that board to make things happen. Within 6 months of me taking over that foundation, we had 6 loans out. We now have 17, and we have $700,000 out there putting 100 people to work. Okay? So the endemic issue is within your own community. So you guys have to look at that yourself. Because we couldn't find people to sit on that board from the city of Miami that were willing to do the work that needed to be done to make sure that those loans went out to the people that they were supposed to go out to. We also partnered with SCORE, which takes guys and women who want to start business and actually creates everything that needs to be created for you to go into business, to go for loans with a regular bank. It's all online. Everything's online and all the rest of that. Any child of color in Miami can apply for those funds to go to college as long as they want to do entrepreneurial, create a business, as long as they want to be business graduates. So anybody can go, women, blacks, Latins can all apply for those funds. Through Miami-Dade College, we gave $250,000 to Florida Memorial, which is the only all-black college in Dade County. And then we also gave $250,000 to FIU. So you can actually go there for school as well. So, and then of course to piggyback on what Schiller's saying, while we all think some of this stuff is so different from all the other neighborhoods, it's really not. It's really not different. Everybody has, there's so much money out there available to minority business, and it's just not getting put out there at all. It's just not being put out. And I don't understand why it's not being put out. But it's not moving. It just isn't going out into the communities. And I don't know, guys, what that is. I don't know how to address that issue. But at any rate, I just wanted to let you know, if you have any questions about, I took that over in 2010. For all intents and purposes, it was a dead thing. It was something money was going to that wasn't being disseminated into the community. It's now being disseminated into the community, and we're working very hard at our outreach program. Part of our biggest issue was we had so many black businesses in the city of Miami that couldn't even qualify for our funds. Is why we started a microloan project. Okay, because that was the other thing. So that was also why we wanted to go with SCORE, because what we wanted to do was, we want to, reach out, pull up, because that's bring people up. Everybody knows that who's been in business. But at any rate, so if anybody has any questions, they can certainly ask them.
Can we get Mr. Trump put in the cash later?
About 10 years ago, come back to what he was saying was like,
Excuse me, there's a terrible echo in here.
I'm sorry.
And we cannot hear, and there's some terrible things all in here.
getting an opportunity. When I was back working with Liberty City Trust about 8 or 9 years ago. I think I was working with Liberty City Trust about 8 or 9 years ago. It was very hard for us to get the technical assistance because there was never no money that was never coming. There was always a fight between the city and between everybody in the Liberty City Trust. And people like us who needed the technical assistance couldn't get to it. People like us who wanted to learn how to build couldn't get to it because there was always a struggle. So for them to get a hold of money to get to Liberty City Trust now, I think is a very good thing because at the end of the day, a lot of developers, small developers like us who don't have no capacity, these type of organizations like the Liberty City Trust really help us a whole lot if they had the financing available to them. You know, but the problem was they never could have gotten the money to be able to do certain things for people like us that never had the technical assistance to be able to do the necessary building and learning how to do certain things because black money was over there for so long trying to fight to get a dollar. And there were money earmarked many years ago that were obligated to Liberty City Trust. But they moved the money everywhere around different places, and that's been happening in the black community for so long. So if there's a toehold that people can get some money from somewhere or developers come here and come and sell these contracts to people like us and say, they're going to give us this, they're going to give us that. Then by the time we look around, we're not in a position to get nothing, so we can't build our wealth, we cannot get the technical assistance, we cannot get an opportunity. So now, when they find some money from somewhere, they grab some money from the developers, they're going to get this, and they should be paying us because it's the taxpayers' land, and it's the Liberty City Trust taxpayers' situation, so they should be paying when they come in and build a unit, put money aside for Liberty City Trust to give people like us the technical assistance that needed, you know, at once upon a time. So people don't know the struggle that these people really went through with these different organizations throughout the life stage of that particular organization. I mean, Mr. Cresto was a long time ago when the fight was going on with the city and Liberty City Trust was supposed to be a quasi-government with each other. Anytime it comes to black people, there's always a problem with us getting money from somewhere. But you'll see everything else going around that needs to go around in the community, but you'll never see when we're trying to get your money. It's always a fight, and that's the problem. So when money's coming from here or money comes from there, everybody should be like, that's a very good opportunity to give us the opportunity to be able to do things. Look at the city, you don't see much low-income houses going up or farm houses going up because there's no money. You know, and the bigger guys don't want to get involved with that. So if Liberty City Trust can get money to do things like that, to put a smaller man in these types of situations, give people the opportunity to build and make money and stuff like that, to empower some of the young black people, that's very good. You know, so that opportunity can come about if y'all get all the developers and make them pay. Make them pay before they do anything in our community. And put brothers on these jobs and make brothers stick to these guys and all these, put all this together so that when these developers come in here, they have to empower black people that's in this community because most of the black people are dead broke because there are no opportunities because most of the people turn their heads. If you have a commissioner now and he's doing that type of stuff, so be it. Not do it. Because I know where I came from, I know what Liberty City Trust went through, I know what everybody went through. I was there for all the fights. And if there's an opportunity to get some money to come down to there and it can be for the right reasons, that's what it's all about.
Let me ask you a question. You are a developer. I know you from back from a couple years now.
Yeah.
Part of this agreement that my Ms. Sarah is, they have what's called set-asides. But the problem with set-asides is they're non-binding, meaning that they say they're going to do it, they know in the past they're going to do it. In your experience with dealing with developers coming in promises stuff, what do you say about that? Does the promise, are they half true or they half right? In your experience?
Back then, when I first started, I had no say-so. If it was binding or not binding, I never was involved in the situation. I might have been involved in the deal. Now, I'm doing some deals now, and the new commissioner in the house said, okay, before this happened, tell the developer, y'all must work together with each other to build this. Give him technical assistance, and also give him the opportunity to be able to build his company. That's happening now, today. So I can't, back then when I was trying to do it, I never had that opportunity. I couldn't even speak. Because the developer came here and he had the politics so much in his hands to where I couldn't say that Mr. Cresto one day interviewed me about a situation a long time ago with the car line. And Mr. Cresto told me, you know, you're using nobody, like, you know, not like this in a bad way, you just a pawn. Now I'm involved in a deal to where now I have some say-so. To have to commission them, they hold the people to their fire now, so they're giving an opportunity now for me to be able to build build my capacity with my business. They give me an opportunity now to be able to learn the development side of it. So now I can't complain now. This is what Shell been from day one. So I can't get mad with the way things are going now because I'm getting an opportunity as a young black man.
He said his name earlier. Go ahead, say the name again.
Say it.
Thank you.
Come close and say it so in the camera so I can, okay, no, just because it's far away, right there. That's
We're not here for that.
No, so for people, okay, no, for people don't hear it.
Excuse me, guys. We have someone here. Now, is there anybody else who wants to? I mean, he spoke about his experience in dealing with this Liberty City Community Trust. Does anybody want to comment or ask that? No, sir. We're gonna take one question.
I need two names. The young man, you sir.
Yes, sir.
You called Willie G. Fair, and what was that other name?
Ronald Frazier. Ronald Frazier is an architect here in town. He sat on that board.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What was the third name?
Dwayne Wynn, who was the executive director.
Wait.
Yes. You guys know.
James, on behalf of the City of Miami and the Commission, would you like to say anything?
I really am here to listen to the concerns of the community, but I think a few things, it's important that we clear up a few things, maybe even some misconceptions. To me, let's talk about, thanking you for hosting this. My name is James McQueen. I'm the Chief of Staff, Commissioner Keon. I want to thank you for hosting this, because the first thing we want to make sure that the community understands what happened, how it happened, and why it happened. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but it's important to understand that when this original agreement was passed back in the early 80s, it really was an agreement for black business. That was the whole idea behind the agreement. And in fact, on opening day at Bayside, there was some 31 black businesses in Bayside. Some 30 years later, there are 2. And what happened, and they were not successful for various reasons. Principally because it's harder to stay in business than to get in business. And the gentleman is right when he said the foundation's responsibility back then was to support these businesses after they got in Bayside. Now, I don't want to try to disparage anybody's name or anything, because you can't unscramble eggs. That happened back then, and we have to try to look at where we are right now. And whether you vote for or against the referendum, we want you to know what happens if you vote for it and if you vote against it. If you vote for it, well, $350,000 of immediate payment will come to Liberty City.
And Bayside.
And the $350,000 will come to Liberty City under the Liberty City Trust, and $350,000 will go to the Bayside Foundation. Now, there's nothing that prevents the Bayside Foundation from continuing to support minority businesses. But just from a legal standpoint, things have changed a lot since the 80s. And now, what at that time was the ability to say, we want black businesses, we have to now use the word minority. And all of us here realize that's a different dynamic. But as I said, what happens if it's passed, if $350,000 comes to the Liberty City to be determined how it's used, both by the Liberty City Trust. The reason why the Liberty City Trust was selected was because it's an organization that is created under ordinance by the City of Miami. It wouldn't be prudent for us to give that money to anybody or any organization saying is, in addition to the $350,000, $200,000 will come to Liberty City annually, and that number will grow each year by 1.5%. And actuaries have figured that over the life of the agreement, that will amount to about 20 million plus coming to Liberty City. Now, whether you agree that it should have been sent to Liberty City or not, and we can have that discussion at any time, and our office welcomes that discussion. The fact of the matter is, a community that desperately needs the money will get the money if this item is passed. So whether you agree with that or disagree with it, you can't argue with the fact that the money will come to a community that desperately needs it. I think it's also important for people to understand that the more resources that we can get from the private sector to come to our community allows us to use the government dollars that we get to spread it out into the other communities that are desperately in need. Liberty City is not the only community Liberty City is not the only community in the city that needs help. But by us getting the more private contributions that we can get, the more private investment that we can get, allows us a lot more flexibility in being able to distribute other funds that might be coming to the city. So I welcome any questions, and I'm here really to listen.
James,
First off, it's $100,000, not $200,000.
No,
It's here in black and white.
Let me finish. It's $100,000 initially, right? But it grows exponentially over the time.
It's $350,000 when the referendum passes.
Exactly.
4 years later,
Right.
not next year,
No.
4 years later, it will be 100,000.
Correct.
After that, it will be 100,000, 1%.
1.5%.
So that next year it will be $101,500. You know, and you're talking about 99 years from now when it becomes $200,000.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
There's $100,000 coming from Skyrise,
Right.
and $100,000 coming from the Bayside.
Exactly.
So it's $20,000 altogether. Understand? It's two different sources.
Two different sources.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's two sources of funding, guys.
Right.
There's $100K coming from Skyrise
Yeah.
Miami. There's $100K
Okay,
coming
but I
from.
was
That's
okay. I was
And
focused on
like
the
you
sky.
said, just to clarify, it does start after the 4 years.
After the build.
building is
After it's built.
Once it's built. Now, the only thing that's guaranteed is the 350.
Right, because if it's not built,
But if it's not built, then the money is not coming.
if it's not built, if the referendum is passed, you still get 100,000. You get that from Bayside regardless. Yeah, you don't get the 100,000.
I trust you.
You don't get the 100,000 from Sunrise
Exactly.
or from Skyrise if it's not built.
James, while we're here, I want this. We can have a dialogue, ask questions, because I think everybody here probably. The question I'm going to ask you, probably want to ask also. I think when I first read about this, and I told you that before, is when we allow. I think what happens is, when we allow discussions to fester on without any input of dialogue, it allows people to come up with their own perceptions, their own opinion. And I told you before the fact that I welcome more dialogue and I welcome more interaction with the commissioner's office. I think from a community standpoint, other of us would like to see them more, dialogue more, and I think a lot of times we can diffuse some issues if we have the dialogue before. I think what happens when you have items when you have ballot items, we welcome discussions hosted by the community, by the city, by City Hall, by our commissioner, because it's directive that's coming from his office. You follow me? So it'll be a good way to introduce himself to the rest of us who don't know him, who don't know what his long-term and short-term plan is at, and who wants to be part of the conversation. Again, he is our commissioner. He is our commissioner. Like it or not, he's our commissioner. We have to support him and give him all the assets, all the support he needs. But we also have to know what his directions are so that we can support him too. Because it's one thing for us as community liaisons to be working in one direction, and it's not necessarily the direction he's working on also. So if we can be working together, it'll make the transition, if possible, in the next 8 years, a lot more easier with a lot less confusion per se.
I accept that.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Come up here.
The first thing I want to say, and there again, I thank you for calling the meeting. I thank everybody for being here. We just come off a heck of a roll at the world famous jumbos. We had the BCC, 194 million listeners hearing about the world famous jumbos. The other day we had the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, 194 million listeners. We had Al Jazeera that flew in out of New York, come to the restaurant. And I just can't tell you the response that we got from around the world in a little place called Liberty City. And people were amazed, and people were lined up around the corner just last week to 10 o'clock at night. The first time in our history ever ran out of shrimp, but we did. But you know, with all of that, and I'm saying this for a reason, when I heard about this situation, I jumped up, leaped for joy, because finally, I think we're starting to address the inner city. And when I heard about, I didn't know who called the meeting, but we were knowing each other for quite some time. And his community,
My age, man.
yeah, and his community was the first community, I told Mr. Haynes, that really impressed me, because their homeowners association, I remember going over there, they used to do the Bonner Vista tours, tour the houses and all on the east side. But what really impressed me, one day we had a meeting up there, and you got the police, you got all these people working, because you are annexed to the design district, and you know how to do it. And I looked at it and said, homeowners association? What? $250,000 in terms of a budget? I mean, this money they had in the bank. So I was impressed with that. Still, I don't know how much you got now. You probably got $1 million. But there again, and talking to Mr. Haynes, I said, why can't, we have that kind of situation? So when hearing all of this, I heard about this situation, I said, finally, somebody's thinking about Liberty City, and particularly, like I said, I represent the world famous jumbos. I said, we got some opportunity. And I heard what the gentleman said about Bayside, and you said you left a couple of years ago. Well, let me just fill you in. I don't know if this happened after you left, because I remember you somewhat. And I heard you talk about those people, but like my friend here said, is you can't scramble eggs. That's enough. But that was way back then, because you had some other notables on the board too, and we won't call them names. But let's talk about the young lady y'all hired a couple of years ago. She came from, you know where she came from. She's the only person working in the Bayside Foundation office, and she is totally overwhelmed in that little back room that y'all had for the Bayside Foundation. And I stand up here because there was a good friend of mine, Leroy Morrison, who died, paid the ultimate price. He was in business with Mega Bucks Recording Studio right here in Liberty City. And we went to the Bayside Foundation, because some of y'all didn't know what it is, and some of the people on the other side, even in government, didn't know what it was. And I told government one day, I said, check into the Bayside Foundation, because we can't get no opportunity down there. With the requirements, I heard you talk about the scholarships. Well, let me talk about business. It was none. I don't know what 17 businesses you're talking about, but I hang out at Bayside, you know, me and some few other people. But we got the opportunity to play down Bayside on my birthday, 2 years ago, October the 4th. The biggest, the people cheered, they thought we were Frankie Beverly, had the band, It's About Time. But the struggle we had to go through, going through the Bayside Foundation.
What year was that?
I'm talking about like 2 years ago. It was recent. You'll check it out. But they send you over to where? They don't have an office. They send you over to Les McDackel. So I gotta go to a bar and negotiate with somebody, I don't even know who the heck he is, but you know who he is. And this is the guy who makes all the decisions on who's coming to Bayside. You know what I'm talking about.
Sir.
He buys, I'm talking now, you talk later. And he buys the liquor, or one guy makes that decision. We gave him t-shirts.
Let me clarify something. There's a clear separation between the Bayside Marketplace and the Bayside Foundation. Let me finish. The 17 businesses in which the Bayside Foundation funded are not in the Bayside Marketplace.
I understand.
So when you say there was 17, be careful.
Sure.
There is 17 businesses.
No problem. I'm very careful. Okay. But I'm saying there's collusion and collaboration because I'm thinking they had an office or somewhere I can go and we can take care of business. But I have to go to the bar. So when this whole thing came about, I said, God, finally, I won't have to go to the bar to negotiate to see how I'm going to get black people to play down Bayside. Because me and my wife go down there, have nothing against South, we're down there all the time. But we thought that there should be some opportunities for other people, other minority people. You know what I'm talking about. I'm saying, no, let me finish. I listen to you. No, I'll clarify later. Let me tell you, I'm saying this. When this situation came about, I said, finally, we can level this playing field somewhat. Because there again, I want to be like those other communities too. So in Liberty City, we want to, I'm getting the sound, let me wrap it up. But no, what I want to do, I'm for the deal. Like I said, I have the oldest restaurant, civil rights restaurant, and we're being called from around the world. And we promised the people that Jumbo's will be in Liberty City, the landmark. The whole world was focused on Liberty City.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know what, listen, I need to clarify something, guys. The Bayside Marketplace is a private entity. It's managed by a private organization. The Bayside Foundation is a city-managed organization. Two different entities, okay? Two different entities. So I don't want us to think it's the same entity. So his concern is in regards to the Bayside Marketplace, which manages the land, the markets. Not the Bayside.
They said it.
Roy, you want to come up so we can hear your question? Okay, go ahead. Keep it loud. I want to hear you.
What you were saying, it was all collaboration for African American people.
That's word Hardemon.
Period. Okay?
Say it, I can hear you.
That is supposed to have been, out of the civil service, 1980, partnership for African American people. Period. That's all that brother Bayside Foundation, it was still open for us. Now,
Can I answer the question? My concern from day one, this is, again, I'm a private citizen. When I read the paper, I'm a private citizen. It means that I work for an organization, I'm a private citizen. I have the right to my own opinion. The first time I read in the newspaper about what was going on as far as the state skyrise and what's going on with private land, it raised, I was very concerned about it. So what I did was, as a private citizen, I emailed my commissioner. I just read in the paper that you agreed on the skyrise deal, which to me, from a financial standpoint, and looking at the analysis of the financial of it, it doesn't make long-term sense for the city, the residents to support it, because here we are leasing a property for $1 million that could sell for another $125 million today. A similar sized lot just sold for $125 million. So why are we leasing it for $1 million when we can put $125 million in revenue today? So that's one of my concerns. Let me say again. Number two, I have a concern in regards to set-asides, meaning that they're not holding them accountable. The set-aside is saying that we're going to do 25% of work of hiring minorities. It's non-binding, meaning that they don't have to do it. So I'm tired of hearing words. So that's my second issue about it. Number three, our commission represents every single net area in the city of Miami. I have the right to ask my commission, listen, there's a lot of organizations that... You ain't got the right to hate them. You ain't got the right. I said I like it. I didn't hate them. Stop it. Let me finish. Just tell me the truth. Why would I hate them for?
McQueen, who was it?
I have a booth.
No, I asked you, who was it? The guy in the blue shirt, who was it? The one who was screaming and howling.
Number one,
who was the guy who was screaming and howling and walking out the blue shirt?
Wait, Al, let me finish this. No, this part of it, I'm going to answer your question because I don't want anybody to think I'm not what you think I am. There's like these organizations that could have qualified to be that fund. Now was qualified to be that fund. Alakata Business Association was qualified to be that fund. So you have different organizations that could have qualified. There's organizations in Little Haiti that could have qualified. Organizations overtime that could have qualified. So I have the right to ask my commissioner what was the logic or the objective behind choosing that organization. That's a fair question.
Let me respond to that, okay? Let me respond to it. The organizations that are very credible organizations. The problem, not problem is the wrong word. The reason why the Liberty City Trust was selected, and I said this at the beginning, was because it was the other organizations were not created under city ordinance. That is the reason.
And that is fair. But that is the first time, listen to me, in all fairness.
But I said that earlier, didn't I?
And you said that earlier, but he asked me the question, why he asked me that question. So if the premise is that premise, I accept it. No one is saying, nowhere in my argument do you see anything here about the trust versus anybody else. I never once had that premise. So I don't know why you...
But you saying that there, but you didn't say, what's the question? What's the question on the trust part?
I told you, listen, I don't care if it was the trust, I don't care if it was whatever organization.
But you just said, what someone
said it was for.
Can you,
when you telling me that there's a piece of land that can sell for $125 million possibly today, which can put, let me finish, which you can
Wait a minute. Excuse me. We gotta have this. Hold on. Wait, hold it. Let him finish. Let him finish. Because I want to put something else on. Let him finish, please. Go ahead, Jerome.
When there's an opportunity where land can be used for can be sold or leased for other things and possibly generate more revenue, then after I said, okay, why release it for $1 million when there's an appraiser that says worth more money? I have right to ask that question. I have right to ask that question is the set aside that I've been set aside is still way to make it stronger. Because like I said earlier, he's been hearing about set aside the past 20 years. Set aside, I'm not binding. So I have right to ask that question. And guess what? Don't come to an active person to a community meeting. You follow me? So never have you seen any correspondence from me or any office. He attended my first meeting. He can attest to that. Never did you hear from my mouth saying, I got a problem with this city trust. Okay? And Jamie,
I would agree with that. What I think that's important to understand though, okay, for everybody, right? And me from the office of Commissioner Keon Hardemon, I appreciate the meeting. I have not gone one step. You know, I'm here to answer any question as best I can. But I also think it's important for everybody, for Mr. Jerome and for everybody else here. When we talk about the fact that this land was valued at $125 million and the city is only getting $1 million a year from that, right? I think it's only equitable if you also call some meetings in districts 1 because they voted for it.
I don't live in district 1.
No, but that's not the point. No, the point I'm trying to make. No, listen to me. Commissioner Hardemon, if Commissioner Hardemon had voted no, let's say he voted no, but listen to me. Let's be fair. If he had voted no, it would have been 4-1. And you know what Liberty City would have gotten? 0. If Commissioner Hardemon had voted no, there would be no minority contractors agreement, even if the set-asides are not guaranteed. That wouldn't have been in the deal. And so all I'm saying is, Commissioner Hardemon, in a commission that's made up of 4 people who are not from this community, 1 man that's from this community, was able to get a deal that helps his community. Now, whether you agree or disagree with the way that he got it, whether you agree or disagree with the details of it, the fact of the matter is, by himself, because they had all the votes, by himself, he was able to get it. The other thing I think is important for everybody to realize, and I tell people all the time, sometimes we get confused and believe that we live in a democracy. This country is not a democracy. It's a republic. And a republic is you elect a person to represent you. That's why the word is a republic. And that person goes and represents you. They don't come back to you every time something is coming up and said, I want 51% of the people to agree with what I decide to do. What happens is, as a republic and as your representative, he makes a decision. 4 years from, 3 years and about 4 months from now, you'll look at his record and say, you know what? He did a good job. Or you'll look at his record and say he did a bad job. And if you look at his record and don't think he did a good job, you will be free to vote somebody in to represent you. And whoever you select to represent you is not going to have to come back to you and say, I want to show a hand as to whether I do something. All I'm saying is Commissioner Hardemon was in there and he was doing the best that he could for his community.
James, you're absolutely correct. No one is arguing that point. No one's arguing that point. But again, as a private resident, as a private citizen, I have the right to have a discussion. I understand. And no one can get mad at me if that's my opinion, because this is a meeting that I said that I invited.
Listen,
I don't know why.
Let me say something. Jerome, Mr. Jerome, you are absolutely correct in that you have your opinion. And you have the right to express it, and everybody here has the right to express it. But at the same time, listen, your opinion, Roy has the right to get mad at you. He may not be correct for getting mad at you, but he does have that right. You follow what I'm saying? And you have the right to stand firm on what you believe. I believe that meetings like this are the best thing that could happen. Because whether we are angry in this meeting, whether we disagree in this meeting, at the end of the day, it's still one community. And what it becomes good for Liberty City, what becomes good for Little Haiti, is good for the city of Miami.
Well, Jamie, if I can finish what I was saying. Go ahead. Because at the end of the day, it's not about being mad at anybody, because I ain't mad. I'm just telling you like I see. No, but the fact is that you alluded to the value of the land, but you threw Liberty City in there like, we're going to stop y'all from getting anything.
No.
And yes, that's what I take it.
I would have an issue if Al Qaeda was this organization. I would have an issue about this organization. It's not about this organization.
This is what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
When I got on the board in 05, the board was put together by the city of Miami in 99. Okay? Don't spend dollars, no house. When I got on that board, I made sure that all the one of them built those houses. I'm the one that walked their plans through as far as the government that's supposed to have got $18,000 as a stipend per year. How much money I get from that? Zero. The county, the city owed me almost $32,000 that I never even claimed. I never even said, hey, y'all give me my money. And that, whoa. At the end of the day, okay, I'm taking offense to it because you threw Liberty City in here like, you know, when the last meeting McQueen was in, what's her name? My home showed me the video that said, Roy, talk about me, okay? And I take offense to that simply because you let other people come in here and pitch you against my community, and that's wrong, man. That's wrong.
You know what? I'm not going to address that.
Hold on, let me say one thing. Roy, sorry, I was forgive me. Roy. This meeting was never about pity.
It was.
Just let me say what I gotta say. I listened to everybody. It was never about pitting one neighborhood against another. What it was about was bringing District 5 together to begin to think about how we get community investments in every neighborhood in District 5. It's Liberty City's time. Great. Great. Liberty City deserves to have its time. But there are 14 other neighborhoods in District 5 who may not ever get a voice. Because the one challenge that we always have is that there is never a plan for how we get the whole daggone district out of poverty. District 5 leads the city in poverty. Yes. And we're not going to get out if you or me or Schiller or people from Hadley decide you can't have the money, you can't have the money. That's not what it's about. If you heard that, I apologize. Because that is not what this is about. This is about getting the attention of our commissioner to pull all of District 5 together to find a way to make things happen. Because if the commissioner can get $100,000 or $200,000 or $150,000 from a developer, believe me, there are 87 more developers that want to come into District 5. The challenge is, how do we lift the boat? That's the challenge.
First of all, I want to say to all of you, I apologize for being late. I'm self-employed, have been for 10 years. I run 2 companies that I own. I work 9 days a week, 48 hours a day. My name is Kelly Crawford. Kelly Crawford. I'm the president of Bel Air Homeowners Association. This is really pathetic, first of all. You know, I'm not Puerto Rican, I ain't Chico, I'm black and Jewish, and I'm gay. So persecution and denial is entrenched in my brain. I don't feel sorry for anybody, and I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. What I do feel bad about, staff of Commissioner Hardemon, is that I've been to 5 of these meetings, regional meetings. Hardemon has showed up to 1. Part of your failure, sir, is because there's never been a support for the money. The poorer our communities are, the more government money comes in. It doesn't get to the neighborhoods. It stays in the politicians' pockets, the naysayers' pockets, and supporting those politicians. So my question to Commissioner Hardemon's office, if this money goes to that organization, what's their business plan with that money? What's their report card, other than just putting it in the bank and wait and see what we're going to do with it? Before that money is rolled out to any district, there should be a published online business plan so that he, her, me, and anybody else can see that there's money out there to be had and how it's to be had. That's the problem. Then you see all the candidates up in church when it comes time to get your vote every Sunday. But when there's money out in your community, none of them go to church to say, all of you here that own your own business in this black community church, and that's where you're going to catch most of us at on Sunday, in a group versus the radio, there's money at his office for you to go apply for. How many of you have got that notice? Is there a plan for the money?
Ain't nobody came to us.
So you're waiting for money.
First of all, if the referendum is passed, because if the referendum is passed, there's no plan. If the referendum is passed, there will be a published plan as it relates to the monies that are given to the Liberty City Trust.
So let me ask you this question. Is there an agenda of sorts that, you know, I've been in department stores, first of all, for like 15 years. Okay? So a part of my job is that, yeah, that's lovely, that's nothing to do with budget. So part of my job is when I fly to New York from Bloomingdale's every 6 months to ask for my store to receive $20 million in fixtures, in lights, in doors, in elevator repairs, in alterations, in security. I gotta have a plan before I ask for that money. And he said, well, Mr. Crawford, where do you want to put that money in your stores? So what I want to know from you, see, you're doing this wrong. I'm not done. You're doing this wrong. The whole thing is, if my organization needs money, then I should probably have a plan as to what I'm going to do with it. An opportunity means preparation is an equal success. Not just put money out there. Now let's figure out what we're going to do with it.
Let's start with
Okay. Yeah, what's your plan?
Liberty City Trust has a plan. Going to the office there.
For this particular
Go
money?
to the office and get the plan.
You're not answering the question. For this specific money?
Yes.
Okay.
Suarez said that only way he was going to vote on this thing is that you have a plan and you don't make it, what they call it, a cash cow for the staff.
What is that?
And it's for business development. If you can't understand what business development is, you was in the wrong business.
Well, I am in business. The fact is that
Listen, guys, forget about you making this about, we're looking at a piece of a pie, selling at the morning side pie.
Show it. Let this gentleman speak. Stand up, Come on out here.
I represent the Grow Gang. My name is J.A. Alex. If you don't know what the Grow Gang is, you're going to know pretty soon. It means get rid of the ghettos, America, now. Okay? The reason for the formation of this organization was because the little people in the inner city poor communities voices were never heard. So now, when they wanted to start businesses, the banks don't even think about it. The so-called government organizations and what you might call community development organizations were all controlled by the politicians. So that means that their friend was going to get the money. If you happen to be one of their friends, you might come up. But it was always so little amount of money available till once the politician take care of his little personal friends, there was none left for the other little people who were all crying at the door, oh please let me get a little bit. And every year they come up with the same, oh I've been having this dream for 5 years, for 10 years. I'm showing you what a systemic problem is, and I'm asking you, please, let's put together the plan to address this problem. And I don't think we're going to address it going about it the way that we're going about it now. $100,000, $200,000 is like a drop of water in hell.
Yep.
When it comes to addressing what's going on in the city. We need 5,000 black businesses right now in the inner city, and we don't need no minority tab on it. Because Roy said that these entitlement programs were born out of the riots. There was no minorities involved in the riots. Okay, and now the plans have been put together but not executed. But let's refine them, and let's work together with this brother and with others and with Mr. Hardemon. We got the opportunity right here. Mr. Hardemon has now got a listening ear toward us. And now we need to work with him to see how, not to argue and fragment. All we asking for is a dialogue. Please, let's create that starting today. And when the dialogue is over, let's all be on the same page. Because guess what? Obama doesn't agree with what we're talking about. That's why he mandated the My Brother Speaker program. And he said he's going to fund billions of dollars only for economic development for, he said, blacks and Latinos in the amount. But we're saying ain't nobody should be ahead of us. Not all this minority. I love Hispanic people. I have a lot of Hispanic friends. But let's face it, friends, they're getting there. Go to any Hispanic community, they are booming with business. It's us that is in the crowd. And people like Mr. Hudson may be afraid to address that issue for fear that he is going to alienate the Hispanic voters. But people see that we are the ones that suffering the most, and we've been suffering the longest, and nobody else now should come up here and step in front of us, step in the line ahead of us and say, well, I'm going to know what you're talking about. Because they're going to get votes of money. They got the votes downtown and everywhere. So let's push the issue that the inner city got to be addressed right now.
I'm going to say something. He said a very important point. I don't live in the city. I never lived in the city. about me asking questions. We have the right to ask any question we want to, because through questions we get dialogue, we have relationships. I never once attacked anybody or attacked anybody for the position. But if we're really gonna have a serious conversation about changing D5, it can't be Little City's agenda, Little Haiti's agenda, or East Side agenda. It can't be. Because there are certain things we have in common. You know, but at the end of the day, if we're not willing to sit down and be like, you know what?
You shot at Liberty City. I need to say what you said. You shot at Liberty City.
But I need you to say
He was at the meeting. He told me he was at the meeting.
You said Liberty City. That's the man. Liberty City. That's not the street man on the east side. That's not shooting at the other end. It ain't nothing. So it ain't good. Come on, man.
I'd like to speak, and I'd like to talk about something different to clear the air. Look at this from a different perspective. So my name is Al Crespo. I publish a blog called Crespo Graham Report. Al Crespo. I publish a blog, not that thing. So I want to talk about this from a different point of view. You know what all this problem is about? This has not been discussed in any of this. This guy Berkowitz, who's going to give you all $100,000, and he says he's going to make you non-binding promises that he's going to come in here and hire people by the day or by the week. How many black people does he have working for him in his office? How many people has he helped make rich? That's the key. He can talk all he wants. All of these developers can talk all they want about, and let me tell you something. He went to Frederica Wilson, because I've got the letters, when he got the EB-5, when he applied for the EB-5 program, talking about that he was going to be helping out because he was going to be close to a community that was impoverished. Berkowitz has made millions and millions and millions of dollars, and so has George Perez, and so have all these other developers. They've made all this money, but they really haven't made any real benefits to the black community.
Or to the city as a whole.
Or yeah, they've looked out for their close friends, but they have not generated wealth and helped black people generate wealth and poor people generate wealth. Right? See, this is the key. You can sit here and you can argue amongst each other till hell freezes over about, well, we want $100,000 here and we want $200,000 here. You know what $100,000 is? Chump change. Chump change. $100,000 a year is maybe 1.5 decent jobs. Right? That's it. This guy expects to make billions if this thing gets built. And if it's successful, he expects to make billions and billions of dollars.
Well, that's what I would like to hear.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. He's bought you. He figured he could come in here because when the commissioner, at the first commission meeting when this was raised, and he said, my deal is this, you're giving $350,000 to Bayside Foundation. The very least I want is to double that money to $700,000. And they didn't want to talk about it.
That was the first conversation.
That was the first card on the table was, I want $700,000 from Bayside Foundation. Okay? Berkowitz comes back and says, what's he say? He says, oh, I'm going to, and he doesn't say he's going to give you any money up front. Bayside Marketplace is going to give you all $350,000. Okay? Berkowitz didn't give me $350,000. He says, what if I build this thing on the 4th year, 4 years from now, or beginning whenever it's built, I will give you $100,000. And then a year after that, I'll give you $101,500. The year after that, I'll give you $100 and whatever. Right? Well, guess what? 99 years from now, ain't nobody going to be here. 99 years from now, this place all will be underwater, maybe. Right? What you're talking about, if you want to improve the community, you got to do it in the next 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. We can't have all this bullshit going 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I'm sorry. But if you're going to raise this community, if you're going to empower this community, when Berkowitz says, I want to hire 2 or 3 young black men and women to come in my office and I'm going to teach them how to become developers.